Hello, everyone. I am Carrie George, and I am coming to you today to talk about women in leadership. And you are going to want to stay tuned as I begin this discussion today, because I'm going to be talking about an incredible story of a woman that happened in 1150 BC. And some of the challenges that she had to deal with, you are going to be surprised, we are still dealing with them today. So you're going to want to stay tuned and find out, who is Deborah? What is this story all about? And why is this little chapter in the Bible a story that most pastors wish wasn't there in the Bible? So you'll be back in a minute, and let's find out more about Deborah. I'm Carrie George, and one of my companies is CIBN Connect. You'll find us at CIBN TV on YouTube. And I'm starting a series today talking about women in leadership and some of the most powerful women that inspired me as I became a woman of leadership and of influence. And I'm taking, by the way, ideas from you if you want to put in a chat of women that we should talk about and stories that we should discuss, or even interviews that we should be doing with women in leadership as we progress through this series. But today I thought I would start out by talking about one of the most influential people in history that impacted me as I began my journey, okay? So I want to talk to you today about Deborah. Deborah is a story in the Bible, and I really felt in tune with this story when I read it years and years and years ago, because I was a pastor for 14 years. And as a pastor, I had some interesting challenges right away. This was like only 14 years ago. I guess I've been running the network now for about 13 years, so it was prior to that. But during that time, I often encountered people saying, women can't be pastors. Women can't be in a role of leadership. And as soon as, like, even last year, I had somebody say that to me. So this is not something from the past, ladies, okay? This is something that is happening today. It is very now, and it affects even our ability to lead in all other realms. So I'm going to tell this story today, and I hope that you relate to it like I did. But I also want you to know, if you don't believe in the Bible, you're going to enjoy this story anyway, okay? I think you're going to be able to take some points home from this and go, wow, and be inspired. Because Deborah was a woman like us who was trying to get something done, okay, in her time. And she had many of the same challenges that we do today. So if you're looking for this story, it is actually in the book of Judges in the Bible, okay? It is in chapter 4. And I think before we begin telling the story, I want to tell you first what Deborah means, because I think it's significant. It always kind of hit my heart when I would think about this. The word Deborah, the name Deborah, actually means bee, like bumblebee. Now, why is that important? Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but when scientists get together and talk about how to make something aerodynamic and fly, the bumblebee is not their model, all right? In fact, it's aerodynamically impossible for a bumblebee to fly. Who knew? Well, apparently nobody told the bumblebee, okay? So the bumblebee flies anyway. It flies. And that's kind of what Deborah was like in her leadership back then. I don't think that she stood up and said, I'm going to lead Israel. I don't think that actually happened. In fact, it's really interesting because she became what is called a judge and a prophetess. And if we read in this story, it said in verse 4, it says Deborah was a prophetess. She was the wife of Lapidoth, and she judged Israel at that time. So let's talk about that. How does somebody aspire to the career of being a judge and a prophetess during that time? What exactly were these positions? Okay, did you just fill out a resume and you fill that out and somebody came and collected your resume and then they decided, okay, you qualify, so you'll be the judge over Israel? Yeah, that's not what happened. Okay, in fact, in order to be a prophetess and not get stoned to death First of all, you'd have to have some accurate prophecies. There's not a lot told to us about who she was and what happened prior to that. But public opinion was that she definitely was a prophetess. And they were willing to follow her leadership because they understood that she was hearing something from God that the rest of them couldn't hear. And they were ready to receive that. Now, what's interesting is in order for her peers to acknowledge this, who were her peers that had to come in line with who she was and the authority she had? They were men, all men. In fact, as we move into the next position, I mean, it's one thing to be a prophetess, but to be a judge, what was that? Well, this was before Israel had kings, and the judge ran the country. What? Yeah. So kind of like a king. Ran the country, had control over the army. What? Well, we find that out in a few verses later because she literally had control of the army. She called Barak up and said, hey, dude, we're being attacked and we're being put into slavery by this group of people over here. This guy named Cicero and his army is like taking us over. I want you to take a bunch of guys and go fight him. And you know what Barak did? Barak said, I will only go if you come with me. Barak was scared. He didn't want to do it. He was afraid that they were going to get their butts kicked. Okay. But he knew that Deborah was actually the judge and that according to everybody around them, she was ordained by God and therefore he'd be safe if she went too. So he's like, I'm only going if you go too, girl. Okay. I am not going to do this unless you're by my side. And Deborah said something very interesting to him at that point. She said, actually, this is in verse number 7 and 8. He says, I'm only going to go with you. If you don't go, I'm not going. And she says in verse 9, just so you know, it's going to be said all throughout history that you don't get the honor or the glory in this. And the Lord is going to actually give the deliverance of Israel into the hand of a woman. And it's going to go down in history like that. And it did, made it to the book. Okay. I don't know if you know this or not, but there were a lot of books that didn't make it to the book. Okay. This story made it to the book. And I want to bring that to your attention because a lot of people feel like God doesn't ordain women, that God won't use women. And even today, in many churches across the land, there is a stigma about women in leadership. And a lot of people will say, oh, that's not true. My church says that anybody can be a leadership. Do they really? Who's the senior pastor in your church? Okay. Who is on the pastoral list, but doesn't have any power or say what's being done. In many denominations today, across North America, in Western countries, women are still not in leadership in church roles. Okay. And that flows into our society and into our community. A lot of us feel like, well, we have equal rights today. Everything is equal for us. In the Western Hemisphere, we do feel like that. But I think we've become complacent, ladies, because the reality is when you look at politics, for example, of who the leaders are, we do have some women who have risen to the top and become national and international leaders. But when you look at the numbers of how many are women and versus how many are men, you'll see that it's 10 to 20% in Western nations. What's it like in the rest of the world? I'm going to tell you what, it sucks to be a woman in more than 80% of the world. Okay. We've gotten used to getting and having things this way here, and we think it's like that everywhere, but it's not. And it wasn't for Deborah back then either. Deborah was in this position where, you know, she was the judge and she was the prophetess, and basically God said so everybody had to line up. Wouldn't it be awesome if you felt like that today? Well, you should, because he did say so. Okay. And it's not just him. We live in a world, okay, where we really create a lot of what happens around us by the things we say, the things we do, the people we surround ourselves by, right? You know, the law of attraction, charisma, all that stuff. Many people believe in all of this, right? So what kind of a picture are we painting around us? Ladies, it is time to rise up and claim the authority that you have. okay? The whole world is the world because we have mothers. The mother is the most important position on planet Earth. You raise the child. Leadership of the whole world is in our hands, and we're far more powerful than we ever dreamed or thought or imagined possible. But I want to tell you something. The world that Deborah lived in then and the world that we live in now is not that much different. Today, we are still in a male-dominated society, and we have become complacent, ladies, in taking our role in this. Every time I see politicians, standing up, a new election is coming, why aren't we seeing more women running? Why aren't we seeing more ladies, becoming entrepreneurs and taking their role and changing the way things are? Maybe you feel like you're not significant enough to make an impact. And I want to tell you that you are. Now, I was a preacher for 14 years, so I resort to the Bible a little bit because I like that. Not everybody likes that story, but there's some key points in there that I think if more people knew them, if more women knew them, you might like your Bible better. I mean, isn't that a great story about Deborah? Just wow. But not only the story about Deborah, there was another thing. When I would be going somewhere and preaching and teaching back then when I was doing that, sometimes some man usually, and not always men, sometimes ladies were like this too in the church. They would say to me, you should know your place. You're not supposed to be teaching. You're not supposed to be preaching. And, there's a scripture, and actually in 1 Corinthians 1:27, it says, God chooses the foolish or the insignificant things of the world to confound the wise. And he takes the weak things to shame the strong. I wrote it down. I was looking at it. Okay. And I remember when I would get accosted like that, and somebody would say, you should know your place. I would say, hey, I am that insignificant, weak thing. Okay. I am that foolish thing. I've been sent to confound you because you think you're so wise. Okay. And I think that it doesn't matter if you understand your role. It doesn't matter if you have confidence or if you don't have confidence. You need to know, what? The world is set up for you to be an equal or more. As mothers, we influence the planet way more than any other group of people, really. So we should embrace that and use that to our advantage and actually use it to the world's advantage, because it is to the world's advantage that we do this. Okay, so I want you to know and some takeaways from this. I need to change the direction of my computer here so I can see my takeaways. I wrote them down over here and then I hid them behind me. So, okay, we're God ordained for leadership and we are more than enough. You are more than enough. Always. Everything that you need in order to grow whatever it is that you're growing, whether it be a business or whether you're going for promotion in your job or whether you're trying to change the world with your cause, I want you to understand something. You are more than enough. You got everything that you need. It's right in here. Now, there is this journey that you're going to have to take. It's 6 inches long where you got to grow through, okay? That's true. But you have more than enough there for you right now. And you need to embrace that and take that with you. We are also still in this world today. It's not only male dominated, it's also got another thing that's very interesting and very similar to in Deborah's time. If you read through the book of Judges, there's a statement that keeps being said over and over again. It said that men did as they thought was right in their own eyes, and that the whole place was evil. Would you not agree that that's not true today? Okay. There's all kinds of stuff going on that ain't cool. But I want you to know, ladies, that you are having an impact on the world. You know this new AI tool that has recently come out where you can just Google anything really quickly and gives you back answers. I started running some questions through that, and I found some really interesting statistics. Really interesting. And ladies, we need to realize that we have the power to change the world. Do you know, I'm going to share some of these statistics and upcoming things because some of them are like riveting, but this one was interesting. They're trying to figure out if world hunger has gone down at all in the last, how many years. So I started doing some researching, and the answers came back to this AI tool. I was like, yes, it has. It's gone down about 20% in the last 100 years. And also there have been less world wars in the last 100 years. And I thought, isn't that interesting? I wonder why that is. And then it hit me. And here's a connecting the dots moment that most people are not making yet. You know what else has changed in the last 100 years? In the Western Hemisphere, women now vote, and they hold between 10 to 20% of leadership positions. And we've already impacted the world, ladies. It's already happening. Imagine what will happen when we do get that number up to 50%. Hello? So I would encourage you to join with other women. Be a part of something great. Join with women whenever you can to create something new and something exciting and something amazing. Okay? So we have a couple things that I'd like to bring to your attention because I think that they might be something that you'd like to join, might draw you into a new way of thinking, a new group of ladies. At WEN and CIBN, we've brought these two companies together. Women's Entrepreneur Network, 76,000 women entrepreneurs on Facebook with Haley Gray. CIBN Connect is my company. It's a company of men and women who've been getting together for business networking for more than a decade. We have come together to create the WEN Weekly Networking for the women to come together Tuesdays, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. And you can see the bit.ly link down there below. And I would like to encourage you, if you're a woman in business, if you're a woman who wants to have a business, if you're a woman who wants to change the way you think, to start changing the world around you, I would encourage you to join us. And we have some incredible guest days that are coming up. You're going to be able to be part of that on an ongoing basis. They will run every third Tuesday of the month. And I'll put the link for the next one that's coming up because there's one coming up right away on this upcoming Tuesday. And I just want to encourage you to join with a group of ladies that's making a difference, do something awesome. You know what? We have the power to change the world. And you are the answer that the world is looking for. So let's get together and join this power together. And we're going to have a lot of fun. So I'll be talking to you soon. In fact, I'll be there this Tuesday.